What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. You can find me everywhere online at TattooedTheist. Today, we will be resuming something I talked about 2 days ago. There was a story out of Iowa about a satanic display being erected in the Capitol building. That is this video right here. I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want more context of what we're talking about. But there has been an escalation of this. So I figured, let's talk about it. So quick overview in case you didn't see the other video and you're like, I'm not going to go watch it. Quick overview is this. In Iowa, in the Capitol building, the church or the temple of the Satanists, they got approval to put a display up inside the Capitol. Now, it's not a one-off. There were several groups were allowed to put displays up. They kind of staggered them out. So it's not just the Satanists that got a display up in the Capitol. They were one of sounds like many, or several at least, different groups of belief that were able to put a display up for a certain amount of time, and then it cycled through to a different group who put a different display up. There was a lot of backlash about it. There were a handful of people who were very upset about it within the Capitol building, saying that Christian values should be upheld and that essentially that Satanists should not have religious freedom. I spoke pretty in depth about kind of my view on religious freedom surrounding Satanists. I do believe in religious freedom when it comes to Luciferianism because they believe in something. Whether you think it's disingenuous or you think it's crazy or you think it's evil is beside the point. As far as the law goes, religious freedom does extend legally to Luciferianism because it is a religion. They believe in something supernatural. They believe in a deity of some kind. Satanists don't, normally. They don't believe in God. They don't believe that Satan is an actual entity. It is essentially a group of people who are self-focused, and it is essentially a group of people whose one of primary purposes, if not the primary purpose, is to just mock religion. It's to mock specifically Christianity. So I don't believe religious freedom should extend to Satanists in general, other than the ones who actually believe in Satan, which most don't. So anyways, what happened is the display was vandalized, apparently. So this is the story here. This comes from the Daily Beast. It says this: a man was arrested and charged after allegedly damaging a display from the Satanic Temple inside the Iowa State Capitol building. Authorities said Thursday. Michael Cassidy, 35, was charged with fourth-degree criminal mischief after allegedly trashing the statue of the goat-headed deity Baphomet, which the Satanic Temple said had been destroyed beyond repair. The group reportedly set the statue up last week as an expression of religious freedom. There's that term again, used very loosely, in my opinion, for a group of people who do not believe in a religion. They are not a religion. Luciferians are a religion. Satanists normally are not a religion. According to Fox News Digital, Cassidy freely admitted he'd torn down the display because it was extremely anti-Christian. Out of context, without any more explanation, I don't like that. People are allowed to be anti-Christian. That is freedom. People need to be allowed to be anti-Christian, just like Christians are anti-Satanist, and Christians are anti-Luciferianism, and Christians really are anti any religion that is not Christianity. And honestly, a lot of Christians are anti-Christian because of denominations. So without context, who knows? But if that's all that was said, I don't agree with that at all. People are allowed to not like Christianity. They are allowed to put up displays that are anti-Christian. That is their freedom. That is their right. Iowa's Republican Governor Kim Reynolds had also called the display absolutely objectionable and invited others to join her in praying over the Capitol. That's a better response than vandalizing the display, in my opinion. In its statement about the incident, the Satanic Temple signed off with "Happy Holidays and Hail Satan." Here's a little video. I took the sound off, but they're showing you the damage that was done. From this video alone, and you'll see kind of as it continues to go on, I think saying that it is beyond repair might be a bit much. Maybe they just mean the deity that they had up, the actual figure that they had up. Maybe that was destroyed beyond repair and has been since removed, and maybe that's why we're not seeing it. But from what I'm seeing here, things are knocked over, and some things were spilled. I feel like you can repair that. And it doesn't justify. I'm very much against what Cassidy did. In no way do I agree with vandalizing the display. I don't think it was the right move politically. I don't think it was the right move religiously. And I don't think it was the right move legally. It was all around a not intelligent thing to do. This morning, we were informed by authorities that the Baphomet statue in our holiday display was destroyed beyond repair. We are proud to continue our holiday display. What holiday is my other question. From a satanic or even a Luciferian perspective, what holiday? They don't have a holiday in December. They're not celebrating anything. There is no satanic holiday that surrounds Christmas. So this leads more into this concept or this idea that Satanism is really just a mockery of Christianity, which in and of itself is fine. They're allowed to do that. That is their right as an American organization to not like something and to mock it. I agree with that. I don't agree with the principle behind it. I don't agree with the intention behind it, but I agree with their right to be able to do that. They are allowed to mock Christianity, but they don't have a holiday in December. They're not celebrating a holiday. We ask that for safety, visitors travel together and use the 7 tenets as a reminder for empathy, which we're going to read, in the knowledge that justice is being pursued the correct way through legal means. Happy holidays. So you can see there that's what the figure was. So this is what led me to kind of believe that the video showing the damage was everything other than the actual display. The actual display was the goat-headed figure. I believe that perhaps that was irreparably damaged, and maybe that's why it was removed. The rest of what was there seemed very minorly damaged and probably could be repaired. So perhaps it is correct in saying that it was damaged beyond repair. Now, they mentioned the 7 tenets, the fundamental tenets of the Satanic Temple. So I wanted to just read these because I would guess that most people, you're not familiar with them. So the first one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. Now, I'm going to point a few things out here as we go. With reason, you'll notice that all of the tenets are extremely subjective and aren't based on anything objective or authoritative in nature. And I'll compare it to something like the 10 Commandments within Christianity. Whether you agree with Christianity or not, don't care. But as far as Judaism goes and Christianity goes, we function at a fundamental level off of these 10 commandments. And all of the little things kind of branch off of those 10 commandments. But using the 10 commandments as an example, they reference all of them. Reference something objective outside of humanity and completely authoritative, and that is God. And the idea is that God's principles and values stay fixed. They're objective, as in they are outside of us. We don't decide them, we don't change them, or we shouldn't. They're objective in nature. And so all of the 10 commandments, they're bouncing off of this objective, unchanging authority. The tenets of Satanism are not. They're subjective in nature, meaning all of them leave it open to interpretation of the reader. It's open to interpretation of the individual. So there's no cohesiveness to it. There's no objective authority to base it off of or to go back to say, okay, well, what is with reason? To be compassionate and empathetic toward all creatures in accordance with reason. What is reason? I mean, 50 years ago, it would have been seen as unreasonable for abortion to be legal. And how about even further? It would have been seen to be unreasonable for abortion at 9 months to be okay or moral or legal. Now, there are states where abortion at 9 months is reasonable. It is legal. Therefore, this tenet, there's no objectivity to it. It's subjective to culture, meaning it shifts with the emotions and the tide of culture. There's no foundation to it. The second one is this. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. I interpret that as prevail over governments and institutions, which I don't necessarily disagree with. But moving back to the beginning of it, the struggle for justice. What is justice within a subjective framework? Well, it's whatever we decide it is. Justice is whatever the wind blows in culture. So it also is completely hinged on the waves of culture, the emotions of humans, the wants and needs of the time. It's not based on, like a religion, an objective, authoritative principle, which is what you get with a God. Even taking Christianity out of it, any major religion has justice that is tied to something objective outside of the human perspective, outside of human emotion, outside of human culture, which is ever changing. So that also is completely whatever you want it to be. Justice is whatever you want it to be. The third one is this: one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Think about that one now. So going back to the idea of abortion, because it's an easy one. You cannot violate the body. It's subject to your own will and your own will alone. So that doesn't extend to the child in that scenario. It would just hinge on the mother. So let's go outside of abortion, because sometimes people get upset about abortion. This could be anything, though. To not violate oneself outside of your own personal, it's still just emotion. It's still just cultural, because the way we would view situations that would adhere to this, or that this would relate to, is ever changing. Because again, this does not go to anything objective. It is subjective. So this will also tied with culture. The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. I very much like that. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. This one is honestly not so bad. There's a slight problem again with unjustly, because what is justice? What is justice within their framework? There's no way to know. What their version of justice would have been 50 years ago, I guarantee is different than what they would explain their justice or injustice might be today. Because it is hinged on what? Culture. It's hinged on what? Emotions. On people who are changing. Always. Never staying the same. The next, beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. I'm going to read that again. Belief should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. Meaning that too changes. It's not consistent. It's not constant. It's not objective. It is subjective. Science is in no way cohesive. If you get a scientific study about something about geography from Norway, same area that they're studying, and then you get the same or a similar type of study from the US about the same geographical area, you will likely get different findings. You will likely have a different, either largely different or maybe minorly different outcome, a conclusion that is not the same. Science in no way is cohesive. Just think about COVID. Science was very much all over the place with COVID. We were told one thing, then it changed back, then it changed something totally different. The vaccine, there's everything. There was no cohesiveness. There was no agreement. And if you are unaware, that is how most things in science work. There is very rarely full-on agreement across the board with scientific principles. You get different outcomes. You get different conclusions. That is normal. It happens. So again, very, very, very subjective. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's belief. The problem is that's what science is. Science is distorted constantly to fit either a group, a university, some kind of funded study or research study group. It in so many cases is distorted to fit the beliefs of the individual or the organization. It's extremely common. People are fallible. True. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. I don't really have too much of a problem with that. It's relatively straightforward. The only issue, again, is that it is in relation to morality. And morality without objectivity doesn't exist. Morality that is subjective is not morality. It also is just culture. It is just something that a group of humans who live in proximity to one another decide is right or wrong. And look at culture. Now, look at culture 50 years ago. Those things that are not tied to something objective, being God, have changed. It's just what happens because people change and then people at mass change, and that changes culture. And then everything is different. So morality without an objective reference point is not morality. It's opinions, it's emotions, and it is culture. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. What is nobility without a reference point? The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. Again, it's just justice in this one. You have to be able to account for what justice is. And without something objective to reference, you can't. In good faith, you can't. So at the end of the day, I in no way agree that this is what should have been done, the destruction of the display. Even though I don't agree that Satanists should have religious freedom, because the reality is Satanism as a group they're not a religious group. Luciferians are a religious group. I don't agree with them. I think it's a very evil thing. I think they're batting for the other team, so to speak. But as far as legality goes, as far as freedom of being in the US goes, Luciferians need to be able to practice their religion. Otherwise, you get into very scary territory of then nobody is safe. No religion is safe. Either all religions need to be safe within reason, or none of them will be safe. And that's a very dangerous place to be. So it's tricky and it's a tightrope walk. But at the same time, there do need to be lines. Satanists normally, and there are some Satanists who do believe in God and believe in Satan and just choose to be with Satan. But the reality is, by definition of what that actually means, is they would be Luciferians. But regardless, Satanists at large do not believe in God. They don't have a thought about him because they don't believe he exists. Likewise, they don't believe in Satan. They don't believe he exists because without God, Satan doesn't exist. You have to have God, or Satan doesn't make sense. Satan is the result of the story of the Abrahamic God. So you can't have one without the other. Most Satanists do not believe in God. They don't believe in Satan. They don't believe in the supernatural for the most part. They are not a religion, so they should not have religious freedom. But still, this was not the right thing to do. Especially in such a hot political environment, for a Christian or anybody, a conservative, whatever, to go into to physically destroy something that was approved by the state, was approved to be in the Capitol, and didn't really seem to be too in your face mocking Christianity in this specific scenario. It was the wrong move, just strategy wise. It's the wrong move. Now Christians look like wackos who are going to go and destroy things that they don't agree with. It makes Christians/conservatives seem like they don't agree with freedom of religion, freedom of speech, which are kind of key tenets that conservatives are fighting for right now. It's a huge deal right now. And then you're going to go and do this. It's very hypocritical. It sets a horrible example, and it just gives them fuel to come at us as the religious zealots, which is not what we want. It's not an intelligent move. It's very poor strategy. So on one hand, I don't agree Satanists should have been able to put it up at all, because I do believe it is just to mock Christianity. That's what Satanism is, to a point. And also, I don't believe they should have religious freedom, because I don't believe they're a religion. But if it was Luciferians, I do believe they should have been allowed to put it up. I don't think anybody should ever vandalize it in any way. because they need to have that religious right, whether I agree with it or like it or don't. They need to have the right. These are my opinions. That is what happened. I thought it was kind of interesting. If you're not a part of our Discord group, there will be a link in the description below. There's over 150 super smart people, way smarter than me, in that group. They talk all week long. We do a live stream every Sunday night at 6 p.m. That's a Bible study, verse by verse, word for word, digging super deep into context and actually trying to understand the Bible. And then on Thursday night, we do an open forum podcast where you guys can call in and talk. We run a poll every week in Discord. The community votes on what the topic for Thursday is, and that's what we do. I don't decide. You guys decide. So if you're not a part of the Discord group, I highly recommend you come and check it out. If you don't like it, just leave. But I love you guys. Interesting stuff going on. Don't do stupid things. Let's set good examples, and let's make ourselves look like adults and like we actually believe in freedom, because that's kind of what we're fighting for. I love y'all.